How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the stream. It's another week and another topic over here at Searchie. As usual, we'd like to invite all of you to engage in the community. What we're trying to do here is develop out a community of free-thinking people that are very keen on innovation, creativity, change, and knowledge transfer, right? So please feel free to leave your comments, feel free to engage with us, share your own ideas, because for sure we haven't thought about everything, and as a community we only grow by knowledge transfer and idea sharing and having that conversation. So please everyone, feel free to get in touch, drop us a little comment if you've got something that you'd like to highlight, or another way of kind of solving the problem that we're discussing today. And today we're talking about something which is, for me, deeply interesting, right? It's the idea that a team and the structure of a team in terms of the personality types and the idiosyncrasies that exist in that team can define an outcome much more than a strategy can, much more than tactics can, much more than the kind of execution piece can. And I'm joined with my co-founder, Saika, who's taken some time out. She was super busy today, so we're very lucky to have her with us. So how you doing?
Thank you, Harvey. So hello to everyone again. Like Harvey said earlier, we really welcome thoughts, comments, suggestions. If I look at big organizations, they cannot move fast enough to deliver things that the market's asking for. So this is your way, your opportunity to really put it out there, like in terms of we are learning from your experience and we want to build customer-led products, right? So we're only going to do that well with your help. So always we welcome this. I think from my side, the reason why we decided to talk about this is there are some things which are not even discussed openly, right? People don't necessarily see certain things making an impact to talent or performance. So we're looking deeper. We really want to open up minds, and we really want to experiment and innovate. So part of that is also discussing things which are not discussed enough.
Absolutely, man. So look, one of the things that we kind of want to start with is this idea that the structure of a team, the personalities in a team, the idiosyncrasies in a team, and the individuals in the team contribute to an outcome much more than the strategy or much more than the tactics that we employ, right? And what we really mean by that is, if you have a group of like-minded people, right? We have a group of people with the same ideas, the same behaviors, the same kind of patterns, then you end up with this kind of echo chamber, which leads to conformity. And conformity, while it makes it easier to manage, because you can have this kind of one-size-fits-all management style or a one-size-fits-all remuneration style or structure, it doesn't necessarily facilitate things like innovation or exploring new ways of doing things, or anything which is beyond delivering a task within a time frame, and making it easier for the management team to kind of create this one-size-fits-all method for controlling. I use that word loosely. I don't mean controlling, but that one-size-fits-all method for managing people, which obviously at management level and senior management level and board level does make it easier to predict what's going to happen. But at the same time, when you create those groups, when you create those teams, you end up with a situation where you encourage people to depend on organizational hierarchy, but at the expense of other performance outcomes that you may want to be encouraging or facilitating. So what are some of the things that we're doing here that people might be able to learn from in terms of trying to create that environment for us? Everything is about innovation, right? We live by and we die by our ability to move very quickly and innovate on things and change things and iterate really fast. So what are some of the things that we're trying to do that facilitate that mindset?
I'm going to take you back a little bit here, because I think you've touched on some things maybe some people can relate to, some can't, right? Because I think the view about this is interesting, because when we are trying to develop solutions for the market, we end up experimenting and being more aware of what the current norm is out there, right? I explain it a little bit more simple than that, because I like simple things. That's why I'm in AI. And one of them is, imagine when you're hiring managers or people like to hire people like themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hands up, I'm guilty of that, right? If I look at the way I've hired in the past and what I've been like all through my career, you know, I've loved outgoing, bubbly people, and you end up hiring similar to yourself, because that is the environment that you're creating on a day-to-day basis, is to have people who think like you. That isn't where innovation happens. Innovation happens in teams who challenge each other, right? Who have different mindsets. So I think this topic then leads into diversity and inclusion. These are two separate things. People seem to lump them together and say it's the same thing. It's not at all. Diversity beyond gender, beyond nationality and everything else. Diversity is diversity in mindset.
Right.
One of the reasons why we get on so well, like at work anyway, is...
oh my God! For anyone that doesn't know, we are married, right? Oh, wow.
So one of the reasons why we get on so well is because Harvey sees things so differently to me, right? So he develops a product, he's responsible for a strategy, and I'm developing another part of the business. And the reason why, when we discuss things, if he said yes to everything and I said yes to everything, he was saying, where would we innovate? Where would we create
That's the thing.
Something?
We just end up conforming with each other, right? And you'd say, let's go left, and there's no one to challenge you about whether left is the right way to go.
But it's because then we think alike, right? We think alike and we see the world differently, and we will end up then building a product which we think is fantastic and has not gone through any process or been challenged along the way. And one of the key things is, and I hope I'm living proof of this, is that I didn't realize how important diverse mindsets are, especially in technology, especially in project-led scenarios. I think if you're an old traditional, like say you're a restaurant and you're hiring staff, waiting staff or restaurant staff, there's probably key things that you need them to have. When you move into tech and you move into more innovative kind of areas, having diversity is about different upbringings, different cultures, different values, different needs. And the reason why these are so powerful is because it helps us like get to this place, which comes from the process of innovation. And the process of innovation is how painful?
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal.
It really, really is. And inclusion then is about not just necessarily bringing these minds in, diversity. Say you hire diverse talent, then inclusion is actually including them in the process. There's no point hiring someone, giving them a voice and giving them a place in the team, right? So if you've joined a tech team that all thinks one way and you're the oddball and you're silenced time and time again, you're not an inclusive company at all. You're not an inclusive team. We
do, every morning, we do a stand-up meeting with everyone. It lasts about 30 minutes, right? And at the end of it, I always come back to, I always come back to these kind of 5 pillars that we're trying to work through to become a more functional team. Because teams are hard, right? Making a team and then preserving that team, and that team being created and structured with the right kind of personalities to produce the kind of output that you want is very, very difficult. So you don't just need what I mean by this is you don't just need the kind of mindsets and the behaviors and the personality types. You also need the environment that will facilitate it. So in these morning meetings at the end, we always sign off with make sure that we understand and trust each other to consider each other humans and people, and as people be fallible, and not then dive in and attack someone if they made a mistake or whatever it might be. So that's what we mean when we talk about trust. Then we talk about God, what do we talk about? We talk about accountability, so being accountable for the successes and the failures as individuals as well as a team. Then we talk about conflict, which is an interesting one because the majority of people would at a lay level would suggest that conflict in the workplace is a negative thing. Now, I'm not endorsing or suggesting every morning that we should physically have conflict with each other, but we do need to be confident and comfortable in conflict, because if we don't raise issues, then they never get solved. So we're trying to give everyone in the team a voice where they feel comfortable with raising things. They don't feel like they're going to get attacked, or they don't feel like they're going to get ignored when they raise these problems. And then as a consequence of building out all of these layers, we kind of get to a point where we have results, which are team-led results, where we're greater than the sum of our parts, which is what a great team does. If you look at some of the greatest kind of team builders in history, I think the most recent one and obvious one for me is probably Alex Ferguson. I was talking about him earlier today, and the guy that I was talking to him with was like, "Oh, you're a Manchester United fan." I'm not a Manchester United fan.
I am.
But regardless of which football team you support, Alex Ferguson was a great leader and he was a great team builder. And he didn't look for people who would just conform. He looked for very, very diverse skill sets, obviously, because he has people in different positions in the pitch, but also people with very diverse mindsets. But even though they were diverse in terms of the personality grouping, they all believed in two things, which were the values of Manchester United, or three things, which were the values of Manchester United. Number one, we're going to win, and we're going to try our hardest to win. Number two, we're going to play really attractive football. And number three, if we ever find ourselves in a position where we are behind, we will not defend, we will attack as hard as we possibly can. And everyone that was in that in Alex Ferguson's Manchester United teams bought into those values. They were the team values. They were the company values, and everyone bought into those. So for me, what I see when I listen to that, and when I think about that, is diversity in the behavior and in the personality types leads to, or can lead to, exceptional results where the results are greater than the sum of the parts.
I think football, what you just described there, is actually a great example, like a football team, because they are normally quite diverse. If you look at where the countries that they're from, the upbringings that they're from, they're extremely diverse, and they have strength on the pitch in the areas that they're good at, right? But they all need to work together to score the goal, and I think that's a brilliant. I've often compared sport and performance at work, but I think football and the teams and how you've described Alex Ferguson, I think the team leader's role or the manager's role should be about getting the best result, right, and the best achievements, whatever they have to achieve. How am I going to do that? And I do often think that people, diversity and including people in these decisions is really undermined and overlooked, and it's probably a very good way of stepping and making yourself different. If you start with a team that thinks differently, you're going to sort of come up with some pretty cool stuff. If I look at
to all individually think
individually, but I meant in the team, like look at what happens with Searchy every morning. Like I love listening to some of the debates that are happening, and because we're living and breathing this, and we have ended up building, something that has come from so many conversations and discussions and expertise, and everyone does have a voice, and everyone it has a right to air. Like I said, conflict is not going to be like smooth, and that is the innovation process.
It is. It's full of conflict. It's littered with conflict.
And I wish more companies kind of let the teams kind of be more involved in the
Well,
process.
this is another thing, and we're beginning to see it, right? We're beginning to see this transition. And guys, thank you very much for all of your comments. We're going to try and come back to them, but I'm kind of digging the flow at the moment.
I love all the emojis that are going mad.
No, look, there's this trend in companies now where the best teams generally, right? They tend to self-organize. So every now and then, every now and then, I'll get accidentally added to a group, one of the chat groups in our office, and then I didn't realize that these teams existed, that these groups had been created by our teams because they are self-organizing into their own little groups to perform different tasks and stuff. Absolutely not. I encouraged it. But this is what's quite interesting now is that as technology is becoming easier to access, and as the IT departments are beginning to relax some of the constraints that they place on team managers and teams and their IT infrastructure, we're starting to see this cool trend where certain managers will have certain kind of collaboration tools that they want to use. They won't go and ask for permission. They'll just turn around to the team and go, yo, email isn't working for us. Everyone download Slack and we're going to start working through Slack. And they don't go and ask. They just start doing it. And for me, that's a really interesting trend. Right, getting to a position where the autonomy, where the team is allowed a degree of autonomy to go and use or define the tools that they want to use is super interesting, and I think we're going to go and see more and more of it.
I'm just reading the comments, everybody, so I'm not really
Frank,
ignoring Harvey.
Can we go up and let's try and answer
address some of
these?
your comments, because we did say we want interaction and we're getting plenty of it, so thank you and keep it up. So hello.
Start at the top. Gulneet, we're entirely on board on that, man. Like, it's really, really important for all of us, especially in the region, because we're in the Middle East, there's a perception globally that we're behind everybody else and we're playing catch up. And that's not on. I mean, we speak with a lot of global people, a lot of global companies who are, you can tell in the attitude that they're not that interested, and then you start explaining some stuff to them and they're genuinely shocked that the kind of mindset and the innovation, and that only comes, we will only get better as in the region by sharing ideas and being way more open with our conversation.
Exactly. So we've also got Shabazz Khan. Thank you, Shabazz. How important is competition in the team? Well, it depends, I think, entirely on what type of team you are. If you're a sales
and what you
team,
want to build as well,
and
right?
what you want to build.
Because you might want to have a team that's super conformist, like really, really similar, and they don't really battle hard against process or stuff like that, right? So if let's say you're a financial institution and you work in the compliance team. No offense, but I don't want my compliance team fighting everyone every day.
No.
I want them complying with the rules.
Yeah.
So I'm going to build a team which is structured in a way with the right kind of personality types to develop that conformity. However, in a sales team, I want personality types that are very, very, very different to nurture and encourage that competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you again, Gulneet. You got another one. Exactly, innovation happens when people from diverse fields bring experience and creative thinking. Yeah, great. We agree.
Yeah,
Hi,
so
Greg.
on that note as well, though, there are areas of differences that create what we call creative friction. And when you're looking, again, if you're looking to structure a team which is super hot on innovation, then you want to try and find personality types that balance each other out in that creative friction zone. So you don't want everyone to conform and be super the same. You want some difference between them so that they have different ways of approaching a problem, but you don't want them to be opposite ends of the spectrum, because that opposite end of the spectrum is going to develop competition.
Yeah. So Ravina, AI in recruitment was the best thing ever in innovation. Woo! We won't disagree with that. We're on board.
Annie, hi, how you doing? Graciously accepting difference with respect for others is vital to good relations. Absolutely.
Yeah. And a
team is like a family. Totally agree. Lucia, part of company culture is also what the company leaders are prepared to tolerate or not tolerate. Absolutely.
Very true. Yeah.
And also how leaders show up formally in front of public versus informally. Yeah, I mean, look, there are a lot of things that contribute to how a team performs. At this level, what we're really describing is the importance of diversity in developing a team that is greater than the sum of its parts. But people are very, very, not just emotional, what's the right word to describe it? We're complex, right? We have to have a lot of different things that work in our favor in order for us to perform at our best or to think in a certain way. We need to be rested. We need to have the right amount of energy stroke caffeine. We need to have the right kind of people above us that are going to allow us that space or not allow us that space to make mistakes. And all of those things really build into developing out the kind of result that you're looking for as a team leader. You know, again, if I go back to you've got to look at the use case first. If I go back to the compliance thing, as a team leader in compliance, I don't really want to allow people the flexibility so much to be very innovative. I want to try and keep a leash on that because we are in a very, very compliant industry.
Same with finance.
Legal,
exactly. These are all areas, right? Innovation is obviously applicable to certain teams in your organization. I think what we're trying to discuss today's topic is that teams do dictate outcomes, right? So figure out what type of outcome you want and then work backwards and think, have you got the best team in place for this? And the next hire that you take on, experiment a bit, right? Don't try and hire another clone.
That's the thing is when people are thinking about the kind of person that they want to bring into the team, they're looking at, can they do this task? 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 And then when you get into that face-to-face interview process, because most people are not trained in how to develop or how to create a great team to facilitate whatever objective I want to facilitate, we're looking for people that resonate with us, that we can identify with. You know, you get people come into the interview experience or the interview process, and their goal is to make you like me. But that shouldn't be the goal, because you liking me, aside from at home, may well mean that you hire me at the expense of the team. You know.
Yeah, and how many people also have people join and leave teams more than the company themselves? And this is where I see this obvious is that I imagine there's been some manager who's left one organization, gone somewhere else, and pretty much he takes his whole team over a period, or the team follow, right? Or wherever he's gone or wherever she's gone. So this is the power of creating like the right team, or someone who wants to work for a boss that appreciates maybe the way that they are. And I think when you talked about earlier, like we hire people because we feel familiar and we get on with them, the workplace has changed.
Oh, for sure, and it's continuing to evolve.
And it continually is, and businesses are changing. So here, it's really about how important is it for you to stay relevant, right, as a company? How important is it, and how much competition do you have in the market? And you know, we had a very unfortunate situation. Was it yesterday morning when the company in the UK went bust? Thomas Cook, yeah. Right? So we were discussing this yesterday as well, like what happened, what went wrong. And we've both got various opinions about this, obviously.
Mine are different.
Mine are obviously right.
Oh my God, oh my God.
But the point is, they didn't change fast enough, right? And when I look at the culture of the team, the diversity, the outcomes that they were producing, right? Somewhere along the line didn't happen in the optimized way, right? So what we're saying is that the right teams can develop some incredible results. So why are most companies happy with average when you can actually achieve something much more?
And this greater than the sum of the parts. That's what we keep coming back to. But coming back to your point as well, people do join and leave teams. We talk, like, at a macro level, we talk a lot about company values and the values of the business and the company culture. But what tends to happen is, because of the very nature of the human brain and how it's evolved over the last 50,000 years, we buy in, and our social contract actually exists within our immediate team, right? So we have the social contract ends up becoming with our line manager more often than not, and then the team that are around us. And we all end up actually making different teams. Kind of we self-organize into different teams to do different things. Outside of the structure that is provided by the HR department, or whichever department it is that's creating the structure, right? So when people are leaving, it's because 9 times out of 10, it's because they're either motivated by money, which is another thing that I'd like to come back to as well. But they're actually leaving the team and they're actually leaving the manager. So working out a way of finding people who balance well inside of that team and allow it or facilitate it to become more effective at producing the result that the team or the business is looking for becomes even more important, because no one wants to leave a team that's winning.
Yeah.
Right? You never heard of anyone leaving a team that's winning. Teams that are losing, or when there's more money that's on the other side of the table, that becomes a different thing. And that money thing is also interesting, because not everyone responds to remuneration and benefits in the same way. What's important to one person, which may be money, may not be important to the next person.
Yeah.
You know, some people might respond better, like Amin was talking about. Amin Islam, if you're watching, dude, hello, it was great to see you last night. But he was talking to me about a colleague of his that was a top salesperson. And this guy was literally not motivated by the cash. He would like to convert the cash that he was being given as commission into paid time off.
Yeah.
So he would convert that money into holiday time.
And I bet if you talk to more people, it came up yesterday. So I was on Dubai Eye yesterday, for those who heard me, hello, and thank you for tuning in. And one of the topics was salary, right? Salary is a direct reflection of age. So, we don't hire, the company might not want to hire or see CVs of older people, i.e. being biased, because they're not going to be in the right salary. And I'm like, well, who are they to sort of judge, right? The employers should actually just set the band, and then it's up to the people, the applicants, right? Because like you said, people work for different reasons. And one of the things that I want more workplaces to think of is how to make your team happy and belong to the culture, right? The culture is the most powerful thing that you can create to create a retention rate and loyalty and amazing results as a business. And one of them is, like you said, salaries are not always the thing. Of course, we all need money to survive. But let's look at other things like flexibility. Let's look at time off for people that are, having children,
greater
having
autonomy.
extended.
Like there are so many different levers that we can pull. But because I think Henry Ford and Alan Smith are kind of important in this story as well. I think because of the way that they foresee everything. Wasn't it Henry Ford who said something like, I want to hire a pair of hands, but unfortunately they always come connected to a human body. Right? He said, I want to buy a pair of hands, but they always come connected to a human. I'm pretty sure it was Henry Ford that said that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Knowledge transfer. Do it. Come on, chat. Let's get some. It comes back to this thing that people are motivated by different things all the time. But because of what we've been learning since the kind of beginning of capitalism has always been, well, money is king, cash is king. We've always understood that people should be rewarded in the same way that the business is rewarded, which is financially. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think that I hope that we're getting to a period where as a species we're becoming a little bit more aware and a little bit more enlightened, and we're looking towards other things, rather than just, oh yeah, well done, you made a sale, here's some cash for you. There are so many different levers, and we need to become much more mindful of which levers are available for us to push.
And I think what's also interesting is how many people work for teams right now where they're not happy, and how many people would actually take a pay cut to be in a team where they were happy or be rewarded in other ways, right? So again, if you look at what is causing people, what is not satisfying them at work these days in the teams, they could be in highly paid jobs, and I bet you they're not happy, right? So how can we make people happier? Because again, teams that perform really well, like we talk about conflict, we talk about the innovation process and experimentation, and if I was not part of Searchy, and I don't think I would have even been able to utilize some of this thought process in a corporate or another company environment.
Because it wouldn't facilitate it.
But it wouldn't come out, because there's a certain, you go in, you do the job, even if you're passionate about your job. I was always spotting new ideas, new things, right? Suggestions, putting things forward. But it's just, it just can't happen, right? Things don't get picked up, things don't get done. So then you go back to just doing your job. And if you're just doing, and you're just doing your job, and again, it wasn't like I wasn't happy, but I would never have realised that I've had a chance to be part of something, bring something out. And it is about, every person has hidden potential in everyone. And I think that this is really the responsibility of the team leaders, the management, the C-levels, the founders, all of the people that are at the top making the decisions. And maybe they're making some of these decisions out of fear or just by how things have always been done. Be brave, be courageous, because once you start trying to do things differently, the results will prove something to you, and so will, I think the teams that we've got here, I always say, when people say well done with Searchy, well done, we love what you're doing with Searchy, I'm like, thanks to my team, right? Thanks to the team, because it is the team that is making the vision come alive. It is the team that is putting in the hours and making things happen in a very tough environment, right? That's not to say we're shouting at everyone, but it is a tough environment,
not
right?
Definitely not that.
And people will be with us until they feel like they've reached their potential, and we will like to think that we can accommodate growth, but obviously there's going to be people, I think Reid Hoffman said it, there are people that you will lose along the way of your business. Because when you're a 20 people company, a 50 people company, 100 people company.
He talks about the tribe,
village,
like family, tribe, village, city? Yeah,
something else bigger. But there are people that you're going to lose along this journey, and be okay with that, because again, the team that you maybe need now as this business and the team that you need at different stage is going to require different expertise and strengths. And it's also about businesses recognizing that and not being afraid of change, right? Experimenting. So the cost of people leaving.
I just want to quickly jump on Pritesh. Yes, I do think that the region needs more education on this topic. Secondly, why don't you reach out to us? Let's get you on the stream. I'm particularly interested in service design. I think that the skill set's really interesting, and also the mindset's very interesting. There's a whole empathy piece that comes with being really strong on service design, as well as a load of technical stuff that goes down as well. So if you're interested, man, drop us a note. Let's see if we can get you in. I think we've got something else as well. Tony,
hi Tony.
¿Qué pasa, hombre? What about when there's a black sheep on your team? How to make someone feel part of the team? It's about.
Don't write them off straight away.
Well, look, for me, it's about having different personalities. So having black sheeps in the team isn't a problem in itself, as long as you create an environment where everyone trusts each other, where you encourage healthy conflict, where everyone understands the things that they're accountable for, and everyone's banding together to try and deliver those results. If you can create that environment, which is much harder to do than it is to say, then the whole kind of concept of the black sheep becomes less of a thing, because everyone's encouraged to be individual, everyone's encouraged to be themselves, and you get value out of those idiosyncrasies. You get a lot of value out of those differences. And that's one of the things that I think would resolve or answer that question, Tony.
And I think to add to that, some people might appear to be like you've described, black sheep, right? They might appear to be, but is that because they're different? Is that because they don't want to get involved? Is that because they're rebellious and lazy? Like, what is the black sheep term that you're referring to? Because what you'll find is engaging and working with people, you have to not write people off on day one, right? You have to kind of see how they are, and attitude is always one thing, right? If you've got just a bad attitude, you can't do much as an employer with a bad attitude of someone.
Yeah, I mean, there are definite behavioural things that are going to be
harder to
warning signs, right? But again, the bad attitude thing is as much a consequence of that person's behaviours and personality style not integrating well with the environment that you've created. So it really comes down to that bit much more than the bad attitude. Obviously, there are some people who are just very, very difficult to handle, but there's an environment for them there is a place
always,
to work
always.
where that kind of thing, that kind of behavior is normal, is accepted, is encouraged even.
And look at it this way. I always say look at it as in being with someone that brings out the best in you, as opposed to being with someone who just rubs you up the wrong way, just brings out the side to you that isn't nice, right? So this is the same when you're looking at teams and performance. Like, don't force yourself. Like, if you've been somewhere for like 2 years and you've really tried as an individual all these different angles to kind of be included or try to perform, and really it is not happening, move, right? Move. Again, easier said than done, I know, but it's better to be honest with yourself with what is making you happy day in, day out, because while you are applying yourself like 2% here, you could be putting yourself 150% somewhere else. So you actually have to take responsibility for what type of environment do you feel works for you, and try that as well. Because maybe I thought when I went into corporate, I loved it. I did love it for that time in my life, because I think learning about the structure, the organization, the way the company was super professional, and it taught me so much. Then at a different stage in my life, I'm more suited to startup, right? So I think it's also about recognizing yourself when you've reached your level. What is the next step? What do you want to try? What do you want to do? And what do you want to be part of? Because some people in the team too maybe don't want to speak up. They're actually just happy just doing the doing, like you mentioned with compliance and finance. It's about like the individual as well, taking ownership of having a voice and feeling like sometimes a team leader might not even be aware that they feel like this.
No, exactly. And not more often than not, that is the case.
Culture, right? The culture pulse maybe is something that, you know, so we're also looking at helping organizations, not just for sourcing, screening, assessing, but we're also looking at helping companies identify what is their current culture as of now. It's very hard to, a search becomes, 1,000, 5,000 people strong all around the world, and we want to know how is everyone feeling in a quick way. We can actually send a link, the AI link, to everybody in the company, and within minutes they can be asked maybe 5 questions, 3 to 5 questions in confidence, anonymously. We, as C-level, will then see the results straight away.
Anonymously as well.
Anonymously,
right? So it
aggregated.
kind of aggregates everything out. But this is the thing, is there are techniques and there are tools available now that can help you to understand the composition of your team.
Yeah.
And I think where a lot of us go wrong, a lot of companies go wrong, is in believing that getting people who conform is the same as hiring the right person for the job. And it is absolutely not. It is not. But we haven't quite evolved to, because, and I think, again, going back to one of the points that was made earlier, it comes back to an education piece. We all think, I'll give you an example. So there's a great book that I'm really, really fond of, called 50 Secrets from the Science of Persuasion. And at the beginning of this book, it says, everyone thinks that they're great at persuasion, so no one has done any research on persuasion. And it's this confirmation bias that exists within us. Like, I spend every day persuading someone to do something for us. And it is absolutely true that every day we will have at least one conversation with someone else where we have to persuade them to do something for us, whether that is a physical conversation or not. You don't even have to persuade me to open the door for you. You don't have to physically say anything. You just have to stand next to it, and I'm already persuaded to do it. We don't recognize that as a persuasion. We don't recognize that as even as a sales thing, which it fundamentally is, right? But I think that part of the problem, to kind of build on this, I think that part of the problem is that we all think, as kind of managers or people who have teams, that we are naturally really good at running a team because we want to be. So we allow ourselves to fool ourselves to think that we're really good at it. So we then think we don't need any training on understanding what makes a great team, understanding what the results we're trying to deliver are, understanding how the composition of our team can directly impact the kind of results that we can deliver. If you look at the stuff that we did last week with First Abu Dhabi Bank, the results that have come out of that have been so exciting to watch.
It's amazing. And
so
I think,
exciting.
and also to see the fun that these companies can have doing a culture pulse, right? Which is how is the company really feeling? And at first, people are quite nervous, they don't really know what to expect, they think their names are going to be exposed, and once it's aggregated data, then they feel like they can be more honest, right? And it's in confidence, it's done in a quiet place. So the AI is really taking the place of someone who maybe is judgmental, that's going to make you stop, say, a lot of the things. I'm pretty sure if there was a human being sitting in front of someone asking how they feel in the company, I think you're only getting 5% of the story, right? So this way, it really is giving something that's quite, I think, quite realistic. With that, with those insights, you then suddenly have powerful data as a starting point, right? This is how our culture is now. These are the competencies, these are the future competencies, this is what people value.
Well, it's beyond that as well, though. It's being able to understand the kind of results you're going to get from the team, right? So I got really deep into this Culture Pulse thing and analysing the data with our resident psychologist. And some of the insights that you can pull out around how that team is going to behave based on the different personality types, whether they're going to conform to an organisational hierarchy or whether they're, as a team, going to be innovative is really interesting. So pulling those insights out once you have this data and being able to do it literally in real time, right? So we get 17 people complete an interview and then being able to turn around and say, okay, this group of people here, they're going to work really well together. These people are going to create deliver the creative friction. This team over here is going to define or enforce competition. So when you put all of those people together, you have this beautiful ensemble of people which are all diverse enough in their personalities and their behavioral styles to drive each other, deliver creative friction, and then band together when the going gets tough so that they can deliver a result or a task on time. And watching that happen in real time was so exciting.
Yeah,
so
and I
cool.
think this goes back to the best teams, like experimenting with the structure. So it's what Tony mentioned earlier with the black sheep. Maybe that black sheep was a black sheep in that team, but maybe over here they fit right in. So it's about mobilising your talent, mobilising the people that you already have to maximise and be ready for the future. And we talk about the future like it's, some people talk about it like it's 20 years away. No, it's here today. It's here tomorrow, right? That's like how close we're living it right now, right? And I feel like teams could be formed in a better way, right? So AI and technology is really able to assist in places where I think part of the reason why things have been done the way they've been done is we just haven't had access to something which makes sense to be able to allow us to work in a different way. So then you end up working the same way because no one's really approached it like that. But I think that's where we're challenging it.
That's part of the problem as well, is this openness to experiment with new stuff. There's a famous phrase, no one ever got fired for hiring IBM, but at the same time Blockbuster went dead because they listened to advice from consultants that told them not to worry about Netflix, right? So sometimes you've got to be, at some stage, especially as the average life cycle of a listed company is reducing to like whatever it is now, like 13 years or something like that.
Fortune 500 is totally changed.
Right? It's like, so if that's what's happening now, then we have to, as companies, become much more comfortable with experimentation. And Amin, I was talking to you about something really similar last night about what happens if the region doesn't adapt fast enough.
It will. It's got the vision. It's got some great sort of leadership. If you look at what the government's doing in the UAE and even the most exciting things that are happening throughout this region, I do think that the vision is there. And if you look at more developed markets, like if you look at Europe and you look at the US, they have a legacy that they have to change. The good thing about the UAE and these surrounding areas is that digital is getting going, right? So it's like you can really implement things probably faster.
That is exactly the conversation I had with Amin last night, right? Wouldn't it be a crying shame if the Middle East and North Africa region didn't accept or didn't recognise the advantage that it has in being able to compete because of its lack of historical or technical or legacy debt, and instead, by ignoring that or not recognising the advantage that it had, completely failed to accept some of the new things that are available, some of the new technology, new ways of working, new mindsets that are available because they are afraid of change.
No. So I think there's one thing that I don't think the UAE is ever afraid of change. It's changed so much and it continues to. So I think it's about companies. If I look at anything, I would say it's actually the companies and the entities that can change faster to keep up, because the governments do have this vision and are encouraging. Like just today, I think it was, or yesterday, there's a new fund that's been launched. It's a $100 fund that's going to be deployed.
$100?
$100 million. Bit more than that, and it's going to be deployed in AI and technology, right? That's another fund that's come in, so that's showing that investment is going into the companies. So we've got a couple of more questions.
Well, there was one before. Can we rewind a bit?
So I think Amin had a question, right? Or a statement.
I think we just talked about that. That was the whole Emiratization thing that we kind of covered, right?
So I think, again, it's about bringing talent together. So if you look at Emiratis in the region, we've met some great Emiratis, we've got some great people. The exposure that they have and the potential that they've got is so much more, right? And they're actually hungry, they want to learn. And the way we do that is by bringing expertise into the region, bringing talent into the region to work together.
I have a different take on it. I think, to Amin's point, I think that there is enough diversity in the Emirati population that as long as the people who are making these hiring decisions understand how to structure a team, they can get great results out of that local talent.
Yeah, as well.
But if they don't, then they will create a culture in those teams of conforming, of allowing people to just sit back, get out of the way.
So I'll give you an example. Someone once said to me, I was speaking at an event and I had some Emirati people come up to me and were interested in joining, private sector. I want to get into private sector. What do I need to do? And I said, you just look on LinkedIn, have a look, like apply for the jobs, reach out to your network and people that are working in private companies. And you know what was interesting? They feel like some of them are in the minority, right? So we're looking again, we're going back to that diversity and inclusion. What is the point of, like, if you're bringing in Emirati people just to tick the box in your private company?
That's the problem with the whole diversity conversation overall.
Them. So they have to be included. Everyone has to be included in the decisions and not be treated differently, right? Yeah. And I think that all of these biases, they go all sorts of ways, right? And I think this is where we really need to remove that, to be able to say, okay, this is what we want to achieve together, right? All of us together want to achieve this, and it is that football team on the pitch having all these different roles in the team and then scoring the goals and being the winning team, right? So this is that in business.
All right, let's go back. Fran, help us. Shabazz, absolutely. We have this, so Shabazz's point is to be good at work doesn't mean that one is a good team leader as well. I 100% buy into that. I think there are a few issues that we have in the whole kind of promotion ecosystem, or the way that promotions are dealt out at the moment, which very much leans into, you're really good at performing a task, so now you should become a manager. Yeah. Just because I'm good at doing a task doesn't mean that I'm a great manager. You look at the team that I'm managing at the moment, I got a girl with a PhD in AI and some ridiculous maths thing. I got a dude with a PhD in psychology. I got another girl who's got 10 years in data science. I got a Saudi guy. I got a bunch of other people, ladies and gentlemen, who are all much smarter than me and all can perform tasks that I cannot perform. But I can manage them.
Yeah, because you just have to understand where we're going and what we need to do, bring out the best in them.
Is the promotion criteria, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, is, are you good at the task? Yes, you're good at the task. Okay, now you can become a manager.
We've got another.
And then there's no training for these people that have been promoted either.
We've got another comment from Pritesh.
Hello, dude. Okay, companies here in the region spend a lot of money in acquiring tools, for example, emails. Why in this century do we need emails for everything? Using tools like Slack will help them to achieve the same thing, but people are not comfortable communicating on Slack as they don't feel formal. I feel this kind of empowerment has to come from the management. To do that, they need to be educated on the value of it. I disagree, dude. I think that there needs to be more autonomy at the IT level as well as at the kind of senior level as well, which allows managers to define the tools that are relevant for them and their team. Email might be right for some people, and in some occasions, I'm not an email guy, by the way. I hate email. It's too easy to lose stuff. I much prefer instant messaging communication tools. So we're in the Microsoft Teams ecosystem because it's really good for video calling. Anyone that's having problems with video calling from the UAE, have a look at Microsoft Teams. It may well solve your issue. Top tip for anyone in the UAE that's facing Skype being banned or Zoom not working, crack that one. Well done, thank you Microsoft. So for us, so for me, I feel like if the powers that be in your organization are willing enough to take the pressure off of the reins and provide that or allow and facilitate that autonomy, you're going to find different teams working with different tools, and there's nothing wrong with that, because some people are going to prefer working with Jira and others are going to prefer working with Microsoft DevOps, etc., etc.
So Pritesh, we actually were a living example of this. Harvey implemented a bunch of things which were to do with working more efficiently. At the beginning, before we moved over to Microsoft, we were using Slack, right? So there was a lot more stuff that instead of using WhatsApp and instead of using emails, that he created Slack, and then there were set channels to be more efficient so we could track things back and communicate better. Not everybody likes this change. There was actually quite a bit of uproar when this was being implemented.
It was brutal. You lot hated me.
Yeah, we were like, what are you doing? Like, you know, we like to communicate like this way. We don't really see the need of it. After about 2 to 3 months, we did see the need. So I'm honest. And this was a few years ago now. And I think what's interesting is that I myself class myself as someone who's into innovation and I'm still a human being. And change is something that if we are looking to get over here, and we're over here right now, there's certain steps that we have to go through. And
well, our reptilian brain is programmed to fear change and fear things it doesn't know. It's a survival instinct.
Yeah, but it's comfort, right? It's comfort. It's also not realizing that there's an issue. Now, when we started using Slack, we could then see the benefits of Slack, and then only then we could say, oh, you know, that was a good decision. That was a good change. Yeah. And I think sometimes, like, there's so many tools out there, and even when we got into HR, talent, and teams, and how is hiring done, how is culture measured, all that. There's so much out there.
As well.
Huh? Sorry?
Like, just to build on that, you've just reminded me of something that I was speaking with the Fab guys about as well. I think that we make the mistake as kind of companies and as team people of confusing tools with technology.
Yeah.
So Slack, many people would refer to as a technology, but fundamentally it's a tool. And to my mind, there is only one technology that really matters, more than any other technology, and it's existed for almost as long as people have existed, as Homo sapiens have existed, as tribes have existed, and that technology is a team. Because if you think about it, a team is fundamentally a technology, because what it's doing is it's aggregating different things together, different layers of abilities together, different ways of doing things together, and then it is facilitating something to happen more efficiently than if one person did it, with a better result than if one person did it. And we get bogged down in the technology being the tool, when really we need to be reverting back to our relationships with each other as individuals and understanding that actually that's the technology.
Yeah.
And the tools facilitate that technology.
Absolutely. Let's not forget the humans in the process, right? We're just here to give people the tools and software to be able to do their job better. The human brain and the human being is still pretty incredible, right? We just need to bring that out in everybody individual.
All right, so Himesh, when you say that AI could be used to come up with a composition of the best performing teams, this is only probability, as the data space would not involve the personal state of mind of the person, his family or familial, social and political variables. Just a thought. Absolutely right, man. And look, at the end of the day, there's this thing, so I kind of like video games a little bit, and there's this thing in video games called RNG, which is basically like the randomness of stuff. Now, in this idea, this RNG idea, you can only be good at playing this game if you understand how to mitigate or reduce the random variables. And it's the same with the team. It's exactly the same with the team. It's exactly the same with the workplace. You cannot control everything. You don't know what's happening in an individual's life, but you can try to reduce the randomness,
Yeah.
so that you can predict the outcomes better with a greater degree of confidence and success.
Sure. And Amin, you had a point as well. You were like, sorry, I didn't join. You missed the first part. For anybody that's tuned in and that feels like this might be useful for a colleague or someone else in their network, we do have the recordings available on our company page afterwards, as we do with the previous sessions as well. So feel free to watch, share, comment on whatever you feel, even after this
exactly.
live
I mean,
session.
this is all about this, as we started off by saying, right? We're trying to develop out a community of people who are thinking about problems, who are sharing ideas, who are into the knowledge transfer piece. So in addition to what Saika's just said about the recordings being available, if you feel like you got something to contribute, either get involved in the comments or reach out to us. Tell us what you want to talk about. We'll either build it in or we'll invite you in, because at the end of the day, we are not big enough to do this on our own. We need all of us, everyone that's in the region that's interested in how we can affect things and change things and produce better results for all of the region, to get involved and to come on the journey with us. So please, 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 feel free, man. Everyone should feel free. We encourage you, we're inviting you. I'm inviting you personally.
So I think that's about it, right?
You want to draw it to a close? We're about an hour in. We actually anticipated to just spend 30 minutes today, because we've got a bunch of stuff, man. Fortunately, we've been really lucky.
Big day. I think also talking about what's happened in the previous week, what we'll do every week on the show is we'll give you a little update of what we've been up to in Searchy. So in the last few days, we've got some amazing news to share with everybody. Not only have we had our first radio appearances, we've been on Dubai Eye yesterday morning, which was talking about blind CVs. So this is about companies that have started hiring without looking at nationality, gender and date of birth on the CVs, right? And the study's done, and I think it was between 25 and 49% of people heard back when these details were removed for a job, which clearly states there's huge bias in the process of this. So that was an interesting topic. And then I popped next door to see Virgin Radio and the team and just said hello. And then in the afternoon, as part of Future Talks, which was Pulse 95, which is a daily show between 2 and 3 o'clock, 95.0. And there we were talking about technology, what is AI doing, and they were pretty fascinated by that. What was great was to come out of some meetings, and I'll let you talk about
you go, you keep going.
So what was great was I came out of the meetings that I had later on in the day, and part of being an entrepreneur, part of being on this journey is receiving an email that we have been nominated for a GITEX award, right? So for Best AI in Enterprise. So we were super
Pioneers
excited.
Award, right?
Pioneer Award. So we were super excited. GITEX is a huge event. I'm sure some of you who are in the region know about it. For those who are in the States or everywhere else, it's an area, it's a big event here every year. I think no booth is left empty, right? It's rammed, and it's about showcasing the latest technologies in the region. So we've been nominated, and looking forward to getting on the stage there to share our story and our company with the rest of the world. And then we've also been nominated by
GC?
Yeah, for Best Futuristic Technology Solution, right?
Cool,
so, and that's
cool.
The awards are next week for that one. So, yeah.
I just want to jump in.
Great.
Sorry to jump in on you, but Dr. Leah, thank you very much for your comment. So yeah, we did have young people in this this transition that we talked about with Slack. And yeah, they resisted.
Yeah, they did.
And
yeah.
You know what? When I reflect back on it, and I remember the personality types, there was a lot. These personality types, when you put them in a group,
Clusters.
they love gossiping,
Yeah.
and they really support each other. And what I think had happened is that some of the older people were very resistant to the idea, and then because this kind of group of people just had this natural tendency towards protecting each other.
Yeah.
No, they had the natural tendency towards protecting each other and being very supportive of one another and meshing together as a group. As soon as one person said they didn't like it, everyone jumped on.
Yeah, it's like a tribe, right? Needless to say, they're not here anymore because the change was happening and people were resisting it, and it was not
a few years
beneficial, right? It was a while ago. But yeah, I think this does affect, and I think I'm more shocked to when it affects younger people, purely because they haven't had the history of experience and legacy and the different things that they've been through over a number of years, right? And yeah, it is interesting dynamic to see. So we look forward to next week's topic, where we will...
What are we talking about next week? Fran, do you remember what we're on next week?
Yeah, so next week we've got Faraz joining us.
Oh yeah, we've got a guest joining us, right?
A special guest. Faraz is joining us. We're super excited to have him here live next Tuesday at 4 o'clock, where we will be talking about the current recruitment process in terms of like how much time is spent going through hiring and how important is it to find the right person. And he'll also be doing a live candidate experience with our AI, so please tune in. It'll be quite a fun session, no doubt.
Should be super interactive as well, right?
We're talking about too many CVs and what tends to happen, and you know what.
It's such an interesting problem from a recruiter perspective and from a candidate perspective. Sorry, it's such an interesting problem because the recruiters get a bad rap for various reasons.
Don't give it all away.
Yeah, all right,
Don't give it away this week. Let's save it for next week. So tune in if you'd love to get involved or have any questions for us beforehand. If you want to ask us, just log in live with us. And I think that's about it, right? We're
yeah, cool. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
You.
I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for all of your comments and your thoughts and sharing your knowledge and your ideas. As I said at the beginning, and I'd like to end with as well, this community that we're trying to build here is all about that knowledge transfer to enable growth in the region. I know that there are a lot of people who are trying to do this, not necessarily with LinkedIn Live, but with other meetups. I encourage everyone to use the Meetup service, the meetup.com and the Meetup app, because there are a lot of thought-provoking groups out there which you would really, really benefit from, and it's on us to discover them. If we're open to new ideas, we're open to new experiences, we've got to go on that discovery journey.
Yeah. Get networking, get your views out there and make things happen. And thank you for joining us on this week's session. Bye.
Cool.